I'm Sandra Bennett, author of the Adamson's Adventures Books 1 and 2, Secrets Hidden Below and A Lighthouse in Time. In my previous video, I spoke to you about the inspiration behind writing A Lighthouse in Time, which of course is my love of lighthouses and ghost stories. Today, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about how I chose this particular lighthouse. It's one set down on the New South Wales south coast at a place called Jervis Bay. This map is actually in the back of the book for you to all have a look at. You'll see at the southern end of the point is Cape St George Lighthouse. On the other end of the point, opposite point, is Point Perpendicular Lighthouse. So there's two lighthouses that are the entrance into the bay. The one that I have chosen is Cape St George Lighthouse. It has a very fascinating history. And when you go down and visit that, you'll see for yourself how interesting it is. When I go to school visits, I often tell the kids about the lighthouse down there, and they always want to go straight down and visit and have a look themselves. Cape St George Lighthouse was built back in the 1800s under a lot of controversy. It was a lighthouse that was never put in the right place. There was controversy to start with about where it should be sat, and then when the builders built it, they didn't actually still build it where they should have. They built it a couple of miles further down further south from where they should have, because it was closer to the quarry, the sandstone bricks they were using, rather than actually closer to the point where they should have put it. This caused a lot of havoc. Ships coming up the coast on their way to Sydney couldn't always see it and had trouble seeing the entrance into Jervis Bay. So they then built the second lighthouse at Point Perpendicular to try to help the ships navigate their way up the coast. The two lighthouses then caused too much confusion, so you had a lot of shipwrecks starting to happen along that coastline as they couldn't navigate their way safely into harbour. So the next decision that the council made was to actually take the light out of the lighthouse. Well, you would think that would solve everything. You only have the one light at Point Perpendicular working. You would think the ships coming up the coast would have no problems. They could see that one and they could either come into safe harbour for the night or move on up to Sydney. Not so. The trouble was at night, the moon would glow onto the old lighthouse, the one at Cape St George, and it would still shine, so that the ships would get confused as to which one they should be looking at. Especially when you have a storm or a lot of fog, they couldn't tell which was the actual lighthouse that they needed to use to guide them up the coast. Consequently, a lot of ships wrecked themselves on the cliffs around the Caves Beach area. So they came in, the ships ended up coming in here because they saw the lighthouse here. They'd come in here and would crash against the cliffs there instead of making their way in here. So this was not in a very good position at all. So the solution was blow this lighthouse up. When I tell kids that lighthouse got blown up and it finished up being nothing but rubble, they all are absolutely amazed. And on the cover of A Lighthouse in Time, you can see the remains of the lighthouse just there. That's all that's left of the old lighthouse, because there were many ships that were wrecked around it and many people lost their lives. I thought today I'd also share with you a part of the story where the kids go into the local tourist information centre to try to gather some information about the lighthouse. They're convinced that a ghost must live in the lighthouse. When they arrive at the tourist information centre, they're trying to find out where the lighthouse actually is. Our feet seem to stomp quickly up the few short steps and over the old wooden floorboards that made the wide veranda. The thumping echo beneath us, and we pushed at each other to be the first to enter the open door. The sound of our footsteps continued to echo loudly among the timbers. Shh, kids! What's the hurry? A grey-haired woman glared at us above the frame of her glasses that she wore halfway down her nose. She was sitting behind a long glass cabinet. As we approached the cabinet, she took off her glasses and laid them carefully on the open book in front of her. Can I help you with anything in particular, or are you just browsing? Where's the nearest lighthouse? Claire asked. We're really into old lighthouses, Luke added as he pushed Claire aside. Do you like mysteries and ghost stories? The old lady raised an eyebrow and leaned further over the counter. She looked around before she beckoned us closer. I've lived here all my life. I know all there is to know about these parts. If it's grand old ghost stories and lighthouses you seek, then you've come to the right place. She beamed and sat up straight for a moment. I also happen to be the curator of the Historical Society. Her eyes scanned the room once more. I took a quick glance sideways at Luke. His eyes were wide with anticipation. His mouth was ajar. He was obviously ready to learn more. Many ships were wrecked off this coast, most of them over 100 years ago. The old lady continued, apparently enthralled to have an eager and captive audience. Some were merely merchant ships passing by on their usual trade routes, but some were free settlers who were hoping to start a new life in the lucky country. Some ships were also filled with dangerous and notorious convicts, transported to the harshest penal colonies around Australia. No matter who they were, many met the same deadly fate here after they were cast aground on our rocky shores. Many drowned, for they were not good swimmers in those days. Those that survived the shipwrecks usually died of starvation because they didn't know how to survive on this harsh land so far from civilization. Even today, locals claim you can still hear their cries of pain and anguish among the caves. So there's just a little bit of a history woven into the story about the shipwrecks that were found off our coast, and the possible hint of a ghost or two that might be in the story. I hope you enjoyed today's reading. I hope you enjoyed a bit more of the inspiration behind why I chose the Lighthouse at Cape St. George. Thank you for listening. If you're interested, you can always purchase my book at sandrabennettauthor.com. Thank you.